He is Marshall Chriswell joining us once more. This radio program intended to be for informational purposes only. The information does not constitute legal advice. The law constantly changes. The information may not be complete or correct depending on the date and your particular legal problem. Each legal problem depends on its individual facts. Different jurisdictions have different laws and regulations, and because of that, you should not act or rely on any information in this segment without seeking the advice of a competent attorney licensed to practice law in your jurisdiction for your particular problem. He's Marshall Chriswell. He's one of those. And he joins us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you back with us here
nice
today.
To be here.
I have to admit that the inspiration for today's or this week's poll at WCCSradio.com, brought to you by IRMC, is what we have been talking about a lot here lately, and that is estate planning. The question is, even though 76% of Americans say having a will is important, only 40% actually do. And then there are a number of different responses there that people can have. And over the course of the next week, it's going to be interesting to find out just what people think about that question. Right now, so far, 33% say it's extremely important and I have an up-to-date will in place. 33% say it's important, but I haven't taken the time to prepare one. I guess the reason I bring it up to you today is because it's time to prepare one, isn't it?
Yeah, and those results so far are not surprising to me. I'm really happy you're doing that for the simple reason that it's another way to bring awareness to people that don't have estate planning in place, have thought about it but haven't taken that next step. That to say, hey, there are other people out here like me that are in that same boat, that know how important it is to plan for the future, but just for whatever reason haven't done it. So I think it's great that you have that poll.
One of the poll responses that I find interesting to pose to people is those who would respond, it's not important to me, it's not very important because I don't have much that I can pass down. That's not the attitude to take, is it?
Absolutely not. And that is one of the things that I hear the most from folks that I talk to, potential clients, people that come in for consultations. They say, well, I really probably don't need this. I only have, I've just got my house and my car and that's it. Or, I just have a little bit of money in the bank and a little bit of savings, or, I just don't have much at all. And I can tell you that in a state that has that's on the lower end as far as worth, can cause just as many, if not more, problems when you're gone. If you haven't done proper planning, we run into as many, if not more, problems with small estates than we do large estates. And estates that and some estates are insolvent. Some estates don't have enough assets to pay the bills. Those estates can really benefit from some planning. So if you don't plan, what's going to happen is your estate is going to be handled. Number one, nobody's going to know who is supposed to do anything, right? Nobody knows who's the executor, who's supposed to be meeting with the attorney. What are the final arrangements going to be? All these things. So that's all up in the air. But whenever that those things do start to get figured out, then it's just, okay, we've got to apply the default Pennsylvania rules. The state legislature is making the decision about what's going to happen with, even if it's not a lot, but the legislature is going to make the decision about who gets what and how things get paid. And that's not what people want.
Yeah. Well, explain that a little bit further. Somebody might say to themselves, all right, this is what my estate is. It's not much. My kid's going to get all this when I'm gone, and it's just that, maybe I have two kids. They're going to split it, and everything's fine after that.
Well, think about this. If that person is married and they never give it a thought, they think, well, when I pass, everything's going to go to my wife, and then when she's gone, everything will go to our children. Well, that's not what Pennsylvania law says. Pennsylvania law says that when the first spouse passes away, the surviving spouse, in certain percentages, depending on the situation, splits the estate with the children. So if you've only got a house and a car, how do you split a house between your spouse and your children?
Yeah.
And what happens there? So that's Pennsylvania law, and that's surprising to a lot of people that the entire estate doesn't pass to the surviving spouse every time. So things like that, and then the children. Well, what happens if one of the children would happen to predecease you? Not an easy thought, but there's what's going to happen to their share? Is it going to go to their children? What if their children are minors? There are so many things to consider that if you just rigidly apply Pennsylvania law to every situation, it's almost never exactly what somebody would want to happen.
All right, so let's say this. Somebody's listening to this morning. They say, you're right. I really need to get something done. And if we can get them by the hurdle of saying, maybe someday I will, and instead have them say, I'm going to start this process. He's convinced me I need to get a will in place. Those are some pretty compelling arguments. Where do I start?
You start with making an appointment with an attorney to have a consultation. It is, I think people are often surprised by how easy that is. I know I always offer free estate planning consultations because I want to remove any hurdle, any obstacle that somebody might have to starting that process. So, you come in, we take half an hour to an hour free of charge just to talk. Okay. It's, we get some general information about, what's your family situation? What do your assets and liabilities look like? You don't need to bring, your bank statements and your deed for your house and your mortgage and all those things. We just talk. And I get a general idea of what the estate looks like. If we decide to move forward, then, obviously I would need to get some additional information after that. But that initial consultation, people are very surprised at how easy it is to take that first step. And then, I can tell you from that consultation, I would be able to tell you exactly what we need to put in place, what documents, what actions we need to take to meet your goals.
Okay. One of the things that you and I have talked about, and rather frequently in the past, but maybe not for some time, is the person who says to themselves, all right, maybe I do need a will. I'll go find one online, I'll download it, and then I'll just keep it in my papers here. Or I might even go file it at the courthouse. But I'm just going to get something online, and that's good enough.
Yeah, and I can tell you that is a terrible idea, and I tell you that from experience. I spend a lot of my time fixing problems with bad wills. And whether it's while a person's luckily, hopefully what happens is someone is, still here with us and they take a look at this will that they printed out online, maybe didn't get it witnessed or didn't sign every page or didn't get it notarized and don't have any idea. Maybe the language was, relevant to something in California, and they say, well, okay, this thing was $25 online. Maybe I should have a local attorney take a look at this. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we catch it at that point because there are so many problems with these online wills. But what I'm also seeing is, somebody gets a will from an online service or buys one and fills it out or whatever, and then they're gone. They pass away, and then I'm fixing problems that are inherent in that document, trying to figure out how are we going to get this thing probated whenever it doesn't meet the formalities that we need it in Pennsylvania. And so I can tell you that, and I will also say this, I pride myself on, if work doesn't need to be done, I'm not going to make work. Okay. So if somebody comes in and they have a will, whether it was done online or whether it was done from a previous attorney, and they just want to come in for a consultation just to have me take a look at that document, say, okay. And I look at it and I say, okay. And we talk and I say, okay, this document meets your needs. This is okay. It meets all the formalities that it's going to be probate. You're going to be able to probate it here in Pennsylvania. And it addresses all the issues you need. In that instance, I'm going to hand it back to them. I'm going to say, "There's no charge, and you've got what you need here." Yeah. Because obviously, my goal is to help you meet your goals, and if you've already got that, fine. But 90% of the wills that I see coming from these online services have issues that have to be corrected.
Yeah. And of our poll question responses this week, the one that you really don't want people to do, there are several that you don't want people to do, but you don't want anybody to say, it's not important to me to have a will. Somebody else can figure that out after I'm gone.
Yeah.
Why would you burden someone with something like that?
Well, right. And I guess there are folks out there that just either think that it's going to be so simple that it's not that much of a burden, or they just for whatever reason mentally or just can't bring themselves to take the step of doing some planning. But that's really not the attitude to have here. Okay, the main goal of most folks when they're walking into my office for an estate planning consultation is, how do I ease the burden on my family moving forward? And it's not, and you really can. The family, when you leave family behind and they've got to take care of these things, it's not an easy job. So to put some thought into it, to smooth it over a little bit, make it a little bit more palatable, a little bit easier, it can go a long way. I deal with I represent executors, managing estates, administering estates all the time. And, they tell you, wow, this can be a lot of work.
Yeah.
So
It can be.
You want to make sure to have that right person in place and make it as easy for them as possible with good planning.
Somebody wants to use your services for that purpose or any other, what do they need to do?
You'd give me a call at 724-465-5826. Go online to westernpalawyer.com, also located here in the Atrium Building downtown. The other thing I'll mention before we run is tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, Church of the Resurrection in Clymer, PA. I am doing an estate planning presentation, free, open to the public, sponsored by Aristocare in Hillsdale.
Anybody can come, and it's absolutely free of charge.
It is.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Todd. Take care.
It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS AM 1160 and 101.1 FM Fox News. Coming up at the top of the hour, a couple of moments away from now, and then Josh Widdison is in our WCCS newsroom. Jack Benedict will be coming by with a check of sports as well.